How's it going, everybody? Today we're going to be talking about piecewise functions. Now, piecewise functions are a very important thing for those who are going to be going into pre-calculus and stuff like that. So we definitely need to set a foundation here in Algebra 2 of how we use them. And so what we're going to do is we're going to draw on our understanding of writing these linear functions onto a graph. And we're also going to be drawing on our knowledge of how to use domain and range with these piecewise functions. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to sketch the graph of the compound function, and then we're going to determine if the function is continuous or discontinuous. Now, when we go to sketch, a lot of the teachers in pre-calculus and things of that nature like to go ahead and define the domain from the very get-go. Okay, what they mean by that is you'll notice for the first function, it says that y equals negative x plus 2, okay? It goes from negative infinity to 2, okay? And you'll notice they have parentheses around them, so you'll notice that we can't include negative infinity and we can't include 2, okay? So if we come over to here on the graph, where is x2? Well, it's right there, right? So we have this little line right here, okay, that we're going to try to keep in mind, okay, because that is where the domain is for that particular one. Now you'll notice the next domain that we see is for the y equals 2x minus 4. It goes from 2 to positive 5. Well, we already highlighted 2, so let's go ahead and highlight 5. Okay, so we know that our graphs, okay, are going to exist from negative infinity to 2, and then from 2 to 5. So let's go ahead and now put those particular functions on the graph, okay? So I've got negative x plus 2, so that 2, that is my y-intercept, so I have a point at 2 right there. And then I do a down 1 over 1, okay? Down 1 over 1. And then boom, to where I get to 2, but you'll notice it has a parentheses, so I have an open circle there, okay? And then, of course, I'm going to go ahead and draw my graph, okay, all the way through, and then all the way to that open circle, okay? So that is my first part of my graph. Now, the next part of my graph goes ahead and says that we're going to go from 2 to 5, okay? Now, it starts at negative 4, okay, so down here. But you'll notice, though, that this particular part of the graph, this 2x minus 4, is only going to exist in between these two red lines. So any blue dots that are outside these red lines, I'm going to erase once I finish graphing. So I'm going to go ahead, start at negative 4. I'm going to go up 2 over 1. Up 2 over 1. You'll notice I actually end up filling in that circle there, okay? And then I go up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1. Now you might be wondering, why did you fill in that circle, Mr. Farmer? Well, the reason why is because if you come back over here, this thing says that I have a bracket around the 2, okay? So that means I have to include it. So remember, anytime you include, that is a solid circle. That's a shaded in circle, okay? So keep that in mind, okay? Now let's go ahead and trace all the way through. However, remember, I said that we have to erase anything that's on the outside of those red lines. So I got to get rid of all that, okay? And so if we go ahead and we take a look at our graph now without any of those lines and stuff like that, and we make it look all nice and pretty, this right here is my, go back a little bit there. That right there is going to be my piecewise function. Now let's go ahead and talk about whether or not it's continuous or discontinuous. Well, looking at this, it seems that I can run my finger along this graph, okay? And it doesn't seem like I have to pick it up off the graph to start again. It looks like I can just keep going from left to right. And so what we're going to say here is that this graph is going to be continuous. So we'll come down here and we'll say, no, not that one, continuous. Okay, now what is the domain for this piecewise function? Well, it starts at negative infinity because that's how far left we can go. And then it goes all the way to the right to positive 5. Now we can include 5, right? Because that's a solid circle. Now, we then also talk about the range, which you'll notice goes to 0. We can include that. And then how high does it go? Well, the graph looks like it's going to positive infinity. And that right there is going to be the range for this piecewise function. Let's go ahead and take a look at another example. Okay, so like we did previously, okay, let's go ahead and write in our boundaries. So we know our boundaries are from negative infinity to negative 1. So go ahead and find negative 1, which is right about here. And so we'll go ahead and draw that boundary line. Then it goes from negative 1 to positive infinity. So it looks like that's our only boundary line. So let's go ahead and now start creating our graph. I'll go ahead and use blue this time. Okay, so I start at negative 5, okay, for that first one. So my graph will start right here at negative 5, and it looks like it goes up 1 over 1, like so. And just create enough points till you feel like you've got enough, and then draw your graph. Okay. Now, looking at this right here, this part of the graph went from negative infinity, right? It went from negative infinity to negative 1, right? It went all the way to there. So what that means is I need to erase everything that's on the right-hand side of the red line. So I can't have any of this part of the graph, okay? Now it also begs the question, is that supposed to be a solid circle? And it is supposed to be a solid circle, okay, filled in, because you'll notice up here, okay, oh, let me highlight it again. Okay, that negative 1 has a bracket, right? And remember, brackets we have shaded in circles. Now let's go ahead and do the next one where we have from negative 1 to positive infinity. Okay, so we come over here, and I'll do this one in green. We start at positive 2 because that's the y-intercept. So we start here, and we go up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. And then we also go this way. So it looks like something like this and something like this. Okay, now, we said, though, that this part of the graph, okay, it starts at negative 1 and goes to positive infinity, okay? So this part of the graph right here, we don't have this part, okay? We only have it going up to negative 1. Now, this right here is supposed to be an open circle. Why is it supposed to be an open circle? Well, guys, remember, if that negative 1 has a parentheses around it, we're not including it. So we have an open circle for the second part of the graph. Now, this right here, if we erase everything, this is going to be our piecewise function, okay? Now, looking at this right here, we need to determine if it's continuous or not. Well, let's see here. Let's go ahead and see. So if I were to go ahead and break out my highlighter, and I start highlighting from the bottom, okay, I notice that I have to pick up my pen and then begin to highlight the second part of the graph. That means this is discontinuous because I had to pick up my pen to finish highlighting. And so this right here, since they're not joined together, we're going to say discontinuous. All right. Now, what is the domain of this function? Well, it looks like the blue part is going to negative infinity. And then it looks like the green part, okay, is going to positive infinity. Now let's go ahead and talk about the range. Now the range looks a little bit different because you'll notice the blue part, that blue part of my graph looks like it's coming from negative infinity. But then it looks like it stops at negative 6 for the y's. But it's a bracket because remember, we have a solid circle there, okay? Because it breaks apart, we now have to put or, okay? We have to put union. Because we're saying that it went from negative infinity to negative 6, and our graph doesn't exist right in here, okay? Our graph will not be in this little sector, so we have to say it's either from negative infinity to negative 6, or it picks right back up at 1 to positive infinity. Now, at 1, what you'll notice is that it has an open circle. So we have a parenthesis around it, okay? And so that right there is going to be how we write the range. Now let's go ahead and take a look at another example, okay? Here we go. Alrighty, so now this one has a few more functions, okay, but it's nothing we can't handle. So let's first and foremost, let's go ahead and draw where our domains begin and end. So it looks like it begins at -8. So let's go to -8, which is about right here. Then it goes to 0, okay. And then let's look at the next function. It goes from 0 to 3. So we go to 3 right about here. Then it goes from 3 to 9. We have 3 to 9 right here. Perfect. So that right there, that's going to be my domains right there. And I'll go clean it up a little bit. Boom. Okay. So let's go ahead and now create those graphs. Okay. So it says that my first one is y equals, or f of x equals 5. Well, remember, if you have a y equals a number, that's going to be a horizontal line. So we go to where y is equal to 5. And it says at -8, we have a bracket. So we have a closed circle, okay, filled in. And it goes all the way to 0. But at 0, it has a parenthesis. So we have a open circle. So boom, we have that first one done. That's not so bad. So this is y equals 5, okay? Now this next part right here is y equals 3x, okay? That's what this next part is. And then of course, just to finish it up, y equals 1/3 x plus 2, okay? So the second part, let's go ahead and graph it. It looks like it's, since it's y equals 3x, our origin, or where we started, is at 0. Now you'll notice we have a bracket at 0, so let's go ahead and fill that in, and I'll go ahead and actually use a different color. So boom. There we go. And we go up 3 over 1. 1, 2, 3, 1. 1, 2, 3, 1. 1, 2, 3, 1. Now at 3, okay, it looks like it has another bracket, so we'll go ahead and fill that circle in. So that right there is going to be the second function. Now let's do the final one. Now, the final one looks like it's at +2 for the y-intercept. And then it is a slope of 1/3, okay? So we start at 2, okay? Oh, and I made a mistake there. I need to make sure it's an open circle, right? Because that's where it, oh, and I'll do that in a second later. I'll just create my points right now. But remember that when we get to 3, it's got to be an open circle. So we're going to go up 1/3, 1, 2, 3, open circle, right? Because at 3 right here, up in the domain, we have a parenthesis, so it's got to be open. So we'll keep going. So up 1, 1, 2, 3. Up 1, 1, 2, 3. Now remember, we have another parenthesis, right? And so when we go to draw, it looks something like that. But of course, we can't have this piece of it. We can only have that. All right, there. Okay. So let's go ahead and clean things up, make it look all nice and pretty. I'll go ahead and, I guess I can't erase my lines, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be erased. I was just trying to make it look nice. But let's go ahead and debate whether or not is it continuous or discontinuous. Well, if I were to go ahead and start highlighting my graph from left to right, I'm highlighting, but can I get to the blue part without picking up my pen? And the answer is no. I've got to pick up my pen to then start re-highlighting this next part. And then I got to pick up my pen again to begin re-highlighting the green. So what we end up finding out is that this is a discontinuous graph, okay? Because it's not all together. Now, what are we going to do for the domain and the range? Well, the domain for this guy, where does it start? On the far left, it looks like it goes to -8. And is that an open or closed circle? Well, that's a closed circle, so boom. We got a bracket. And then how far to the right does it end up going? Well, it looks like there's no breaks. It looks like it goes all the way to 9. But remember, what's 9? It's an open circle, so we have a parenthesis. Now let's go ahead and talk about the range itself, okay? Now it looks like the furthest down that this piecewise function goes is going to be 0. And when it's at 0, we notice we do have a bracket there, okay? Now, we have to be careful because this piecewise function looks like it has some breaks, but you'll notice that this line, okay, runs all the way up to the highest y value, okay? And because we run all the way up with a solid line, we have to include all those y values leading up to my highest y value. So this one right here is going to be from 0 to 9, okay? And it looks like it's a bracket because it's a closed circle. So there you go. That right there is the piecewise functions, how we create them and how we do the domain and range. And if you guys have any questions, please let me know on Tuesday. Let's go ahead and get started, guys.